Everyone at Prestige Trust Bank thought Amara Okafor was just the poor cleaner they could insult, ignore, and order around without consequence. They laughed when she passed with her mop. They mocked her worn uniform. They treated her like she was invisible. But Amara was not there to clean floors. She was there to clean out corruption. Behind the quiet eyes and humble uniform was a secret powerful enough to destroy half the bank. Amara was the daughter of Chief Amara Okafor, the billionaire owner of Prestige Trust Bank, and she had returned to Enugu undercover after millions of naira mysteriously vanished from company accounts. For months, she let them humiliate her while she watched, listened, and gathered evidence. She saw the abuse of power. She tracked the missing money. She uncovered the manager stealing from the very bank he was trusted to protect. And through it all, only one employee treated her like a human being instead of a servant. Then the truth came out. The cleaner they had mocked was actually the boss's daughter. And she had enough evidence to bring every corrupt person in that bank to their knees. The sight of the rolling hills, bustling streets, and familiar neighborhoods brought back memories she thought she had forgotten. She had left Nigeria shortly after secondary school to study abroad. What began as a bachelor's degree in finance had eventually led to a master's degree from one of the most prestigious universities in the United States. Now, she was finally returning. Her father had insisted on sending a private jet. "You are my only daughter," he had said during one of their video calls. "I refuse to let you squeeze yourself into commercial flights." Amara had laughed. Her father always found ways to remind people he was rich, not that he needed reminding. Chief Amara Okafor was one of the wealthiest men in Nigeria. His business empire stretched across banking, real estate, oil, and telecommunications. Newspapers regularly listed him among the richest businessmen in Africa. Despite his wealth, he had always raised Amara differently. He taught her the value of hard work. He taught her never to judge people by their appearance. Most importantly, he taught her that money should never make someone feel superior to others. Those lessons had stayed with her throughout her years abroad. As the aircraft landed smoothly, Amara felt a rush of excitement. She couldn't wait to see her father. The plane taxied toward the private terminal. A few minutes later, Amara stepped onto Nigerian soil. Warm air immediately greeted her. She inhaled deeply. "Home," she whispered. Waiting near the terminal entrance was a convoy of luxury vehicles. Several security personnel stood nearby. And in the middle of them all was Chief Amara himself. The billionaire businessman immediately spotted his daughter. His serious expression disappeared. "Amara." "Daddy." Both hurried toward each other. They embraced tightly. For a moment neither wanted to let go. "You've become even more beautiful," Chief Amara said proudly. "And you've become older." The billionaire laughed loudly. "You came all the way from America to insult me?" She grinned. "I learned from the best." The two entered the waiting Rolls-Royce, while the convoy prepared to leave the airport. As they drove through Enugu, Amara admired the scenery. Street vendors displayed their goods along busy roads. Children played football in open fields. People hurried about their daily business. Everything felt familiar. Everything felt alive. Yet, something about her father seemed different. He smiled and laughed during their conversation. But Amara noticed a heaviness behind his eyes. She knew her father too well. Something was bothering him. The journey continued to the Okafor family mansion located in one of Enugu's most exclusive neighborhoods. The massive estate sat behind tall gates and beautiful landscaping. Fountains decorated the front entrance. Luxury cars lined the driveway. Servants hurried to welcome their returning mistress. The house buzzed with excitement. Everyone had missed Amara. For the rest of the afternoon, she unpacked, greeted old staff members, and settled into her room. That evening, a grand welcome dinner was organized. The dining table overflowed with delicious meals. Jollof rice, pepper soup, grilled fish, pounded yam, vegetable soup. Everything Amara had missed while abroad. Father and daughter spent hours talking about life in America. They laughed over old memories. Chief Amara listened proudly as she described her achievements. By 10, most of the servants had retired for the night. The large mansion became quiet. Only Amara and her father remained seated in the dining room. The atmosphere suddenly changed. Chief Amara's smile slowly faded. Amara immediately noticed. "Daddy." He looked up. Something is wrong." The billionaire forced a smile. "Nothing is wrong." Amara folded her arms. You used that same line when I was 12 and broke your favorite wristwatch. Chief Emeka chuckled. You still remember that? I remember everything. The billionaire sighed heavily. His shoulders slumped. For the first time all evening he looked tired. Not physically tired. Mentally tired. Emotionally tired. Amara sat upright. Now she was worried. What is it? For several seconds, Chief Emeka remained silent. Then he spoke. It's the bank. Amara frowned. Prestige Trust Bank? Yes. What happened? Chief Emeka leaned back in his chair. His expression darkened. The bank is losing money. Amara's eyes widened. Losing money how? Funds are disappearing. The room suddenly felt quieter. Amara stared at him. What do you mean disappearing? Chief Emeka rubbed his forehead. Over the past year, large amounts of money have gone missing from different branches. How much? The billionaire hesitated. Several 100 million naira. Amara nearly dropped her glass. What? I wish I were exaggerating. The shock on her face deepened. Prestige Trust Bank was one of the most successful banks in Nigeria. Such losses were unimaginable. How can that happen? That's exactly the problem. Chief Emeka stood and walked toward the window. His voice became serious. We conducted audits. No results. We hired independent investigators. No results. We questioned executives. No results. He turned around. Every lead ends in a dead end. Amara listened carefully. The situation sounded impossible. Money simply did not vanish. Someone was taking it. Someone inside the bank. Do you suspect anyone? She asked. Chief Emeka nodded slowly. I suspect many people, but no proof. None. Amara thought carefully. Her finance training immediately kicked in. Every financial crime left traces. Someone knew something. Someone was hiding information. How many people know about the investigation? She asked. Most senior staff. A thoughtful expression appeared on Amara's face. That answer bothered her. Very much. If the thieves know they're being investigated, they'll cover their tracks. Chief Emeka nodded. Exactly. Amara stood and began pacing. Her mind raced. She analyzed the situation from every angle. The audits failed. The investigators failed. The executives knew about the investigations. That meant the criminals had enough time to destroy evidence. The people responsible were likely inside the organization, possibly high-ranking individuals. Chief Emeka watched his daughter. He recognized that look. It was the same look she had whenever she was solving a difficult problem. What are you thinking? He asked. Amara stopped walking. An unusual idea was forming in her mind. At first, it seemed ridiculous. Then it began making sense. The more she considered it, the more she liked it. A smile slowly spread across her face. Chief Emeka immediately, he knew that smile. It usually meant trouble. What are you planning? Amara sat down again. What if the thieves don't know they're being watched? They already know. No, Amara said. Not watched by investigators. Chief Emeka frowned. What do you mean? What if someone they would never suspect investigated them? The billionaire looked confused. Someone they wouldn't suspect. Amara nodded. Think about it. Everyone knows the auditors. Yes. Everyone knows the investigators. Yes. Everyone knows the executives. Yes. She leaned forward. But nobody pays attention to the people they consider unimportant. Chief Emeka stared at her. Slowly understanding dawned on his face. Then his eyes widened. No, Amara grinned. Yes. No. Absolutely yes. The billionaire shook his head. You cannot be serious. I'm completely serious. Amara, I'll go undercover. Chief Emeka nearly laughed. Then he realized she meant it. You want to investigate the bank? Exactly. That's insane. It's brilliant. It's dangerous. It's necessary. Chief Emeka sat down again. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. His billionaire daughter, his only child, pretending to be a staff member. The idea sounded absurd, yet there was something undeniably clever about it. Nobody in the bank knew Amara personally. Most employees had only seen old photographs. Many newer workers had never met her at all. If she disguised herself properly, nobody would recognize her. She could move through the bank unnoticed. She could observe everything. She could hear conversations. She could learn things investigators never could. The more Chief Emeka considered it, the more dangerous and effective it sounded. You've already thought this through, haven't you? Amara smiled. A little? Okay, a lot. The billionaire groaned. You are just as stubborn as your mother. I'll take that as a compliment. Silence filled the room. Father and daughter looked at each other. Finally, Chief Emeka spoke. If we do this, we do it carefully. Amara's eyes lit up. So, you're agreeing? I'm considering it. She jumped up excitedly. Chief Emeka couldn't help laughing. For the first time in months, hope stirred inside him. Maybe his daughter was right. Maybe the solution wasn't another auditor or investigator. Maybe the answer was someone nobody would ever suspect. Someone who could walk through the bank unnoticed. Someone who could see the truth hidden behind polished offices and expensive suits. Neither of them knew it yet. But this decision would uncover secrets far darker than missing money. Within weeks, Amara would discover corruption, betrayal, abuse of power, and a criminal conspiracy operating inside the very institution her father had spent decades building. And before it was all over, she would find something she never expected. Love. But first, she had to become invisible. First, she had to become a cleaner. The plan began 3 days later. Amara stood in front of the large mirror inside her bedroom and barely recognized the woman staring back at her. Gone were the expensive dresses, designer shoes, and elegant appearance that people associated with the daughter of a billionaire. Instead, she wore a faded brown skirt and an oversized shirt that looked years old. A worn-out pair of slippers completed the outfit. Her long hair was hidden beneath a simple headscarf. Large glasses sat on her face. A little makeup had been used to darken parts of her skin and make her appear older than she actually was. She looked nothing like Amara Okafor. She looked like an ordinary cleaner. Chief Emeka stood nearby, shaking his head. I still don't like this, Amara smiled. You've said that 20 times already, and I'll say it 20 more times. She laughed. Daddy, relax. The billionaire sighed heavily. Just remember why you're there, I know. No unnecessary risks, I know. If you discover anything suspicious, report it immediately, I know. Chief Emeka folded his arms. You keep saying you know, because I know. Despite his worries, he couldn't deny that the disguise was impressive. Even he struggled to recognize his own daughter. What's your name again? He asked. Ada. Ada what? Ada Ize. The identity had been carefully prepared. According to the documents created for her undercover role, Ada Ize was a 5-year-old woman from Suka who had recently been hired through a cleaning agency. Everything appeared legitimate. Nobody would suspect a thing. Amara picked up a cleaning bucket and smiled. Wish me luck. Chief Emeka looked at her for a moment, then he hugged her. Be careful. I will. An hour later, a commercial bus stopped in front of Prestige Trust Bank's Enugu headquarters. Amara stepped down carrying her cleaning supplies. Unlike the luxurious vehicles she was accustomed to, the crowded bus had been hot and uncomfortable, yet she welcomed the experience. It reminded her that most people lived very different lives from hers. The bank building stood proudly in the morning sunlight. It was one of the largest branches in the city. Thousands of customers visited every week. Employees hurried through the entrance carrying files and laptops. Nobody paid attention to the new cleaner standing outside, exactly as she wanted. Taking a deep breath, Amara walked inside. The moment she entered, she noticed the difference. When she had previously visited the bank as Chief Emeka's daughter, people practically rolled out a red carpet. Managers rushed to greet her. Staff members smiled constantly. Everyone treated her with respect. Now she was invisible. Several employees brushed past her without even acknowledging her presence. One woman nearly bumped into her. Instead of apologizing, she frowned. Watch where you're standing. Amara blinked. The woman walked away. Interesting. The treatment had started immediately. She continued toward the administrative office where she was introduced to the head cleaner, a middle-aged woman named Mama Grace. Mama Grace had worked at the bank for almost 15 years. Unlike the others, she greeted Amara warmly. Welcome, my daughter. Thank you, Ma. Mama Grace smiled. You'll be working on the first and second floors. She handed Amara a mop. Most staff arrive by 8, so finish cleaning before then. Amara nodded. As they walked through the building, Mama Grace explained how things worked. She pointed out different departments: customer service, loans, operations, executive offices, finance, the manager's suite. Amara listened carefully and memorized everything. Information was important. Every detail could matter later. "One more thing," Mama Grace said. "Yes, Ma." The older woman hesitated. "Some people here don't treat cleaners well." Amara raised an eyebrow. "Oh." Mama Grace sighed. "You'll see." Amara wondered what she meant. She soon found out. By 9, the bank was fully operational. Customers filled the banking hall. Employees moved from desk to desk. Phones rang constantly. The building buzzed with activity. Amara quietly mopped the floor. As she worked, she observed everyone around her. Years of studying finance had taught her to notice patterns. Years of living abroad had taught her how to read people. She paid attention to everything: who arrived early, who arrived late, who seemed nervous, who seemed overly confident. Nothing escaped her notice. Unfortunately, something else became obvious. Many employees were rude, very rude. A female cashier snapped her fingers. "Cleaner." Amara turned. "Yes, Ma. My dustbin is full." "Okay. Why are you standing there?" Amara forced a smile. "I'll empty it immediately." The woman rolled her eyes dramatically. "Honestly, you people are so slow." Amara walked away. Inside, she was shocked. Not because she had been insulted, but because the employee saw nothing wrong with it. To her, this behavior was normal. Later that morning, another employee called her over. The man pointed toward a coffee stain. "Clean that." "Okay, sir. Hurry up." Amara knelt and began cleaning. As she worked, she overheard him speaking to a colleague. "I don't understand why management keeps hiring these people." His friend laughed. "They're cleaners. What do you expect?" The two men walked away. Neither cared that she had heard every word. Amara felt disappointed. Her father had always emphasized respect in the workplace. Clearly, many employees had ignored that lesson. Around noon, something unexpected happened. She was carrying a bucket of water when a customer accidentally bumped into her. The bucket slipped from her hands. Water splashed across part of the floor. Several nearby employees immediately turned toward her. "Oh, wonderful," one woman said sarcastically. "Look at the mess." Another shook her head. "This is why uneducated people shouldn't be hired." The words stung. Not because Amara believed them, but because she imagined how painful they would be to someone who genuinely depended on such a job. The criticism continued. People stared. Nobody offered help. Nobody except one person. A young man rushed over. He looked about 24 years old. Neatly dressed, friendly face, kind eyes. Without hesitation, he grabbed paper towels. "It's okay," he said. "We'll clean it up." Amara stared at him. The others simply watched. The young man knelt beside her and began helping. Within minutes, the mess was gone. "Thank you," Amara said softly. He smiled. "Don't worry about it." One of the employees scoffed. "Chinedu, why are you wasting your time?" The young man looked up. "Because she needed help." The employee rolled her eyes and walked away. Amara couldn't help smiling. "So, your name is Chinedu?" "Yes, I'm Ada. Nice to meet you." He extended his hand. Amara shook it. Something about him immediately felt different. Unlike the others, he spoke to her like an equal, not a servant, not an inconvenience, person. Before leaving, Chinedu smiled again. "If anyone gives you trouble, don't let it bother you." Then he returned to his desk. Amara watched him go. Interesting. Very interesting. Throughout the afternoon, she continued observing. Several things caught her attention. First, employees seemed terrified of the branch manager. Second, certain staff members frequently visited his office, especially female employees. Third, the manager himself carried an air of arrogance that dominated the entire building. Around 3, Amara finally saw him, Victor Ize, the branch manager. Tall, expensive suit, confident smile. He walked through the banking hall as if he owned the world. Employees immediately straightened in their seats. Some looked nervous. Others looked eager to impress him. Victor greeted a few people before disappearing into his office. Amara studied him carefully. There was something about him she didn't trust. Perhaps it was the way he looked at people. Perhaps it was the fear he inspired. Or perhaps it was simply intuition. Whatever the reason, alarm bells rang in her mind. As the day continued, she noticed another strange detail. Several female employees visited Victor's office individually. Some remained inside for long periods. When they emerged, Their expressions varied. Some looked pleased. Others appeared uncomfortable. One woman avoided eye contact entirely. Amara filed the observation away. She didn't have evidence yet, but something wasn't right. Near closing time, she encountered Chinedu again. The young intern was organizing files. Most employees had already gone home. "You stayed late," he said. "So did you." He laughed. "Interns don't get much choice." Amara smiled. They chatted for a few minutes. Nothing serious, just simple conversation. Yet she found herself enjoying it. Unlike everyone else, Chinedu never spoke down to her. He asked questions about her day. He listened when she answered. He even thanked her for helping keep the bank clean, a simple gesture, but one nobody else had offered. As they talked, Amara noticed something else. He seemed genuinely honest. There was no arrogance, no selfishness, no hidden agenda, just kindness. Eventually, Chinedu gathered his belongings. "I should go." "Me too." He smiled. "See you tomorrow, Ada." "See you tomorrow." After he left, Amara remained behind for several minutes. The first day had been revealing, more revealing than she expected. She had already learned several important things. The workplace culture was unhealthy. Many employees treated junior staff poorly. The manager inspired fear rather than respect. Certain relationships within the office seemed suspicious. And most importantly, one person stood out from everyone else: Chinedu. As she boarded a bus home later that evening, Amara stared out the window. The city lights blurred past. Her mind replayed the day's events. This investigation was already uncovering things she hadn't expected. The missing money remained a mystery, but she was beginning to understand the environment where the theft was happening. An environment built on arrogance, fear, and secrecy. If corruption existed inside the bank, it was hiding somewhere within those walls. And she had only just begun looking. Back at the mansion that night, Chief Emeka eagerly waited for her report. Amara smiled as she entered his study. "How was your first day?" he asked. She sat down slowly. "Let's just say this." "What?" Amara's expression became serious. "The missing money isn't the only problem in that bank, and somewhere across the city, hidden behind expensive suits and polished smiles, people were already making plans that would soon place them directly in the path of the billionaire's undercover daughter. A dangerous game had begun, and none of them knew who they were really dealing with." 3 weeks passed after Amara began working undercover as Ada Ease. By now, she had settled into her role as a cleaner so completely that nobody questioned her presence. Every morning she arrived before most employees. She swept floors, emptied trash bins, cleaned offices, wiped glass doors. To everyone around her, she was simply another low-paid worker trying to earn a living, invisible. And that was exactly what made her dangerous. People revealed their true selves when they believed nobody important was watching. The bank employees had stopped paying attention to her entirely. They talked freely around her. They gossiped, they complained, they shared secrets, and Amara listened to everything. Every evening she returned home and carefully documented everything she had observed. Most of the information seemed insignificant at first, but she knew investigations were like puzzles. Tiny pieces eventually formed a larger picture. One thing had become clear: the bank suffered from far more problems than missing funds. The workplace culture was rotten. Favoritism existed everywhere. Certain employees received special treatment. Others were constantly bullied. And at the center of it all stood branch manager Victor Ease. The more Amara observed him, the less she trusted him. He projected confidence and authority. Customers admired him. Junior employees feared him. Senior staff respected him. But beneath that polished image was something darker. Amara could feel it. She simply needed proof. One Monday morning, she arrived earlier than usual. The bank was still quiet. Most employees had not yet arrived. As she mopped the executive hallway, she laughter coming from Victor's office. That was unusual. The bank officially opened in nearly an hour. Curious, she moved closer. The door was slightly open. Inside sat Victor and one of the female customer service officers named Sandra. Sandra was known throughout the bank for her beauty. She was also known for receiving promotions unusually quickly. The two seemed far more comfortable with each other than colleagues should be. Victor leaned back in his chair. Sandra laughed at something he said. Then Victor reached across the desk and touched her hand. Sandra didn't pull away. Instead, she smiled. Amara quickly looked down and continued mopping. A few minutes later, Sandra left the office. Her face carried a smile. Victor remained behind. Interesting. Very interesting. At lunchtime, Amara overheard another conversation. Two female employees sat together in the cafeteria. They didn't notice her cleaning nearby. I saw Sandra leaving Victor's office again this morning. The second woman rolled her eyes. Of course you did. You don't think it's strange? Please. Everybody knows what's going on. The first woman lowered her voice. You think they're together? The second woman laughed. Together? Sandra isn't the only one. Amara's ears immediately perked up. The woman continued. There was Jennifer before her, and before Jennifer, Mary. The first woman looked shocked. Seriously? I'm telling you, Victor always has favorites. Amara kept her face neutral while cleaning nearby. Inside, her mind raced. Rumors weren't evidence, but rumors often pointed investigators in the right direction. Something inappropriate was happening. The question was how deep it went. Over the next several days, Amara paid closer attention. The pattern became impossible to ignore. Multiple female employees visited Victor's office regularly. Some stayed for only a few minutes. Others remained for much longer. Certain women received special privileges, preferred schedules, unexpected bonuses, promotions that didn't match their performance. Meanwhile, more qualified employees were overlooked. One afternoon, Amara witnessed something that bothered her deeply. A young employee named Ngozi emerged from Victor's office. Unlike Sandra, she wasn't smiling. She looked upset, almost frightened. Her eyes appeared red as though she had been crying. As Ngozi hurried toward the restroom, Amara noticed Victor watching her leave. There was something unsettling about the look on his face. Later that day, Amara found Ngozi alone in the break room. The young woman seemed distracted. Normally, Amara avoided asking questions that might appear suspicious, but something told her this was important. You okay? Amara asked gently. Ngozi forced a smile. I'm fine. You don't look fine. The woman looked surprised. Perhaps nobody had asked how she was feeling all day. After a moment, she sighed. It's nothing. Amara remained quiet. People often spoke when given enough silence. Eventually, Ngozi shook her head. Sometimes this place can be difficult. Amara nodded. I understand. For a brief second, it looked as if Ngozi wanted to say more. Then footsteps approached. The moment disappeared. Ngozi quickly stood up. I should get back to work. She left before Amara could ask anything else. But the encounter left her troubled. Very troubled. Days later, another clue appeared. It happened shortly before closing time. Amara was cleaning near the records department when she overheard raised voices inside a nearby office. Curious, she moved closer. The voices belonged to two employees. One man sounded angry. I worked harder than anyone for that promotion. The second man sighed. You know how things work around here. No, I don't. The first man lowered his voice. Actually, I do. Silence followed. Then he added bitterly, if I were a young woman spending time in Victor's office, maybe I'd have gotten it. The comment stunned Amara. The resentment in his voice sounded genuine. Whatever Victor was doing, people had started noticing. Yet, nobody seemed willing to challenge him openly. Fear controlled the workplace. That realization bothered Amara almost as much as the corruption itself. People remained silent because they feared losing their jobs. Victor had created an environment where employees felt powerless, and powerful people often became reckless. That recklessness would eventually expose him. The following week brought another development. One evening, most employees had already left. Amara was cleaning the executive floor when she heard voices from Victor's office. The door was closed, but it wasn't fully latched. She carefully moved closer, while pretending to dust a nearby shelf. Inside, Victor was speaking with Sandra. His tone sounded different from his usual confident voice. It sounded possessive. You haven't been avoiding me, have you? Sandra laughed nervously. No. Good. Amara frowned. The conversation felt inappropriate. Very inappropriate. Then Victor said something that made her blood run cold. You know I can make your career here very successful. Silence followed. I appreciate everything you've done for me, Sandra replied. Victor chuckled. You should. Amara quietly stepped away. She had heard enough. Although she still lacked concrete proof, a disturbing picture was emerging. Victor wasn't merely having inappropriate relationships. He appeared to be abusing his authority, using his position to influence female employees, offering advantages, expecting loyalty, perhaps even more. The realization angered her. As the daughter of a businessman, she understood leadership. A manager's responsibility was to protect employees, not exploit them. That night, she reported everything to her father. Chief Emeka listened carefully. His expression darkened with every detail. "Are you certain?" "I can't prove everything yet, but my instincts say something is seriously wrong." The billionaire nodded slowly. "Continue gathering information." Amara agreed. She wasn't ready to act yet, not until she had evidence nobody could deny. The next morning, she returned to the bank. As usual, many employees ignored her existence. Some treated her rudely. Others acted as though she were furniture. Only one person consistently showed kindness, Chinedu. The young intern remained exactly the same, polite, respectful, helpful. Unlike everyone else, his behavior never changed. One afternoon, he found Amara sitting outside during her lunch break. The weather was pleasant. A gentle breeze moved through the trees. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked. "Not at all." He sat beside her. For a few moments, neither spoke. Then Chinedu smiled. "You seem thoughtful." Amara laughed softly. "Maybe I am. Tough day." "Something like that." He nodded. "I get it." The conversation flowed naturally. They talked about books, movies, travel, family. Amara had to be careful not to reveal too much about herself. Yet she found herself enjoying his company more than she should. There was something refreshing about him. Unlike the ambitious executives inside the bank, Chinedu seemed genuinely decent, honest, compassionate, real. As they talked, another employee walked past. The woman glanced at Amara. Then she frowned at Chinedu. "Why do you spend so much time with cleaners?" Chinedu looked up calmly. "Because she's a person," the woman scoffed before walking away. Amara stared at him. "You didn't have to say that. Why not? People might judge you." Chinedu shrugged. "Then that's their problem." For a moment, neither spoke. Amara felt something warm spread through her chest. Respect, admiration, perhaps something more. She quickly pushed the thought away. She had an investigation to focus on. Yet as Chinedu smiled at her, she couldn't deny the truth. She liked him. A lot. Unfortunately, danger was also growing. Every day Victor became more reckless. Every day more suspicious details emerged. And every day Amara moved closer to discovering the truth behind the missing funds. She didn't know it yet, but the corruption inside the bank went far beyond office affairs and favoritism. Much further. Somewhere behind closed doors, powerful people were stealing millions. And soon Amara would uncover evidence that connected everything together. The affairs, the promotions, the fear, the missing money, all of it was part of a much larger secret. A secret capable of destroying careers, sending people to prison, and shaking Prestige Trust Bank to its foundation. And when that truth finally came to light, nobody inside the bank would ever be the same again. Amara knew she was getting closer to the truth. For nearly 2 months, she had lived a double life. By day, she was Ada Easy, the quiet cleaner nobody noticed. By night, she became Amara Okafor, the billionaire's daughter, compiling evidence and sharing reports with her father. The longer she remained inside the bank, the more convinced she became that the missing funds were connected to Victor Ize. The signs were everywhere. His abuse of power, the fear he inspired among employees, the suspicious promotions, the unusual relationships with female staff. Everything pointed toward a man who believed he was untouchable. Yet, suspicion wasn't enough. She needed proof. Real proof. The kind that could survive an investigation. The kind that could send someone to prison. For weeks, she searched for that proof. Then fate finally handed her an opportunity. It happened on a Thursday evening. The bank had officially closed for the day. Customers were gone. Most employees had already left. Only a handful of staff remained behind, finishing reports and paperwork. Amara was cleaning the executive floor. It was one of her favorite assignments because important people often forgot cleaners existed. The executive corridor was unusually quiet. The only sounds came from distant keyboards and the hum of air conditioners. As she pushed her cleaning cart toward the manager's wing, she noticed something strange. Light still shone beneath Victor's office door. That wasn't unusual. Victor often worked late. But another detail caught her attention. A second voice, Male, older, important. Amara immediately recognized it. Daniel Uma, the bank's chief financial officer for the region. Her heart skipped a beat. Daniel rarely visited the Enugu branch. When he did, senior staff treated him like royalty. His position gave him access to virtually every financial operation within the bank. If anyone knew what was happening to the missing funds, Daniel would certainly be one of them. Amara slowed her pace. Every instinct told her to pay attention. Carefully placing her cleaning supplies nearby, she moved toward a decorative plant positioned close to Victor's office. The door wasn't fully closed. A tiny gap remained, just enough for voices to escape. Amara pretended to dust a nearby cabinet while listening. Inside the office, Victor sounded irritated. "We can't keep delaying this," Daniel sighed. "I know. The auditors are asking more questions. They ask questions every year. This feels different." Amara froze. "Auditors? Questions?" Her pulse quickened. Victor continued. "The old accounts are becoming risky." Daniel lowered his voice. "Relax. Everything is under control." "No, it isn't." Amara leaned slightly closer. Every word mattered. Daniel spoke again. "The transfers have already been processed." Victor remained silent. Then he asked the question that changed everything. "How much made it through this time?" Daniel answered calmly. 35 million. Amara nearly stopped breathing. 35 million naira. Transferred. Processed. Her mind raced. Was this it? Was she finally hearing proof? Victor whistled softly. "Not bad. The new accounts worked perfectly. What about the originals? They've been closed." Amara felt a chill run through her body. Fake accounts, transfers, closed records. This wasn't simple theft. This was organized financial fraud. The men continued talking. "We still need to move the remaining funds," Victor said. "We will." "When?" "Soon." Victor sounded frustrated. "Soon isn't good enough." Daniel's voice hardened. "You worry too much, and you don't worry enough." For several moments, neither man spoke. Then Daniel laughed quietly. "By the time anyone discovers what happened, we'll be long gone." Amara's stomach tightened. Long gone. They were planning an escape. That meant the fraud was nearing completion. The thieves weren't stealing randomly. They were preparing to disappear. Suddenly, Victor stood. His chair scraped against the floor. Amara immediately moved away from the door and resumed cleaning. Seconds later, the office door opened. Daniel emerged first. Victor followed behind him. Both men walked past without paying attention to the cleaner mopping nearby. Neither realized their conversation had been overheard. Neither noticed the tiny recording device hidden inside Amara's cleaning apron. Every word had been captured. Every single word. After they disappeared down the corridor, Amara struggled to remain calm. Her hands trembled slightly. This was the breakthrough she had been waiting for. At last, she had evidence linking senior executives to the missing funds. But she knew better than to celebrate too early. One recording wasn't enough. She needed more. Much more. That night, she met her father in his private study. Chief Emeka listened carefully as she played the recording. The billionaire's expression darkened with every passing second. When it ended, silence filled the room. Finally, he spoke. "Daniel." Amara nodded. "You know him?" "I trusted him." The disappointment in his voice was obvious. Daniel had worked for the bank for over 12 years. Chief Emeka had personally promoted him several times. The betrayal clearly hurt. "We still need more evidence," Amara said. "I know. They'll deny everything." Chief Emeka sighed. "Unfortunately, you're right." The next day, Amara returned to work, but now everything felt different. She wasn't hunting blindly anymore. She had identified two suspects, Victor Eze, Daniel Uma. The challenge now was proving exactly how they were stealing the money. As she cleaned offices throughout the week, she paid closer attention to financial records. Most documents were inaccessible. However, people often left papers unattended, and people who believed cleaners were invisible became careless. One afternoon, she entered an empty conference room. A meeting had recently ended. Several documents remained scattered across the table. Amara normally ignored paperwork. Today, she didn't. Quickly glancing around, she examined the papers. Most contained routine information, loan approvals, customer reports, budget summaries, and one page caught her attention. A list of account numbers. Several were highlighted. Beside each account appeared large transfer amounts: 5 million, 8 million, 12 million, 7 million. The accounts belonged to companies Amara had never heard of. Something felt wrong, very wrong. Using her phone disguised as a basic mobile device, she secretly photographed the document. Moments later, footsteps approached. She immediately resumed cleaning. A manager entered. He never noticed anything unusual. That evening, Amara analyzed the information. Using resources available through her father's team, she investigated the companies listed on the document. The results shocked her. Several companies barely existed, others were inactive. One appeared completely fake. The pattern was becoming obvious. Money was being transferred into shell companies. From there, it could easily disappear. The fraud scheme was far larger than anyone imagined. Days passed. More evidence emerged. The deeper Amara dug, the uglier the truth became. One evening, she overheard two employees discussing recent staff reductions. Why did they fire those workers? I heard management blamed budget problems. Amara frowned. Budget problems? The bank wasn't suffering because of market conditions. It was suffering because executives were stealing money. Innocent employees were losing jobs while criminals enriched themselves. The realization made her furious. Her determination grew stronger. The thieves had to be stopped, no matter what. Meanwhile, her friendship with Chinedu continued growing. The young intern remained one of the few bright spots in her difficult investigation. One afternoon, he found her sitting outside during lunch. "You look tired." Amara smiled weakly. "Long week, I can tell." He handed her a bottle of water. She accepted gratefully. "Thank you, no problem." They sat together beneath the tree. For a while, they simply enjoyed the peaceful silence. Then Chinedu surprised her. "You know something?" "What?" "You're smarter than people realize." Amara nearly laughed. If only he knew. "What makes you say that?" "I've watched you." She raised an eyebrow. "That sounds suspicious." He laughed. "I mean, I've noticed things." "Like what?" "You pay attention." Amara remained silent. "You observe everything," Chinedu continued. "Most people don't." The comment startled her. Had he noticed something? Fortunately, he smiled. That's a good quality. Relief washed through her. He hadn't discovered her secret. Still, his observation reminded her how perceptive he was. Perhaps that was one reason she enjoyed being around him. He saw people differently. He looked beyond appearances. A rare quality. Back inside the bank, however, danger continued growing. Victor seemed increasingly nervous. Several times Amara noticed him arguing on the phone. Daniel's visits became more frequent. Meetings occurred behind closed doors. Documents disappeared. Employees whispered about unusual activity among senior management. Something was happening. Something urgent. Then one Friday evening, Amara witnessed another suspicious exchange. Victor and Daniel met briefly in the parking lot. The bank had already closed. Most staff had gone home. Amara watched discreetly from a distance. Victor handed Daniel a brown envelope. Daniel quickly placed it inside his briefcase. The interaction lasted less than 30 seconds. Then both men drove away. But Amara had seen enough. More importantly, she had recorded it. The evidence was piling up. Recordings, photographs, financial documents, witness observations. The net was tightening around them. They simply didn't know it yet. As Amara rode home that night, she stared out the bus window. The city lights blurred past. Her mind replayed everything she had learned. The missing funds, the shell companies, the secret transfers, the suspicious meetings. Victor and Daniel were guilty. She was now certain of it. But one question still remained unanswered. How much money had they actually stolen? The answer, she suspected, would be far worse than anyone imagined. And as the investigation moved into its next stage, Amara would soon discover that greed had pushed the conspirators further than simple theft, much further. Their crimes were about to become personal. And before long, Victor Eads would turn his attention toward the one woman he should have feared most. The cleaner he believed was powerless, the cleaner who was secretly building the case that would destroy him. By the beginning of the third month, Amara's undercover life had become both easier and more complicated. Easier because nobody suspected her. Complicated because she was no longer dealing only with stolen money and corruption. She was dealing with her own heart. Every morning when she arrived at Prestige Trust Bank disguised as Ada Eads, she found herself looking for one person before anyone else: Chinedu. At first she told herself it was because he was kind. Then she claimed it was because he was trustworthy. Later, she convinced herself it was because he might unknowingly provide useful information for the investigation. But deep down, she knew the truth. She simply liked seeing him, and that frightened her. Falling in love had never been part of the plan. The mission was supposed to be straightforward: gather evidence, expose the criminals, help her father save the bank, then return to her normal life. Feelings were not supposed to be involved, yet feelings rarely cared about plans. That Monday morning, Amara arrived at the bank carrying her cleaning supplies. As she entered the banking hall, she immediately spotted Chinedu organizing files near the customer service desk. A smile appeared on her face before she could stop it. At the exact same moment, Chinedu looked up. Their eyes met. His face brightened. "Good morning, Ada." "Good morning. You're early." "So are you," he laughed. In turn, Amara smiled. There was something comforting about talking to him. No hidden agenda, no manipulation, no arrogance, just genuine kindness. As they chatted briefly, a female employee walked past and rolled her eyes. "Chinedu, don't you have work to do?" The tone carried obvious disapproval. Chinedu remained calm. "I do." "Then why are you standing around talking to cleaners?" Amara lowered her eyes. She was used to such comments by now, but Chinedu's response surprised her. "Because she's my friend." The woman looked stunned. Then she scoffed and walked away. Amara stared at him. "You didn't have to say that. Why not? You'll make people talk." He shrugged. "People talk anyway." For a moment, neither spoke. A warm feeling settled inside Amara's chest. Friend. The simple word meant more to her than it should have because it was genuine, not based on money, not based on status, not based on family influence, just friendship, and that made it precious. As the week progressed, things inside the bank became increasingly tense. Victor Ease seemed more stressed than usual. His temper grew worse. Employees walked on eggshells around him. Several times Amara witnessed him shouting at staff members over minor mistakes. Fear filled the workplace. One afternoon, the tension finally exploded. The incident began when an elderly customer became upset about a delayed transaction. The customer service department struggled to resolve the issue. Eventually, Victor became involved. Instead of calming the situation, he made it worse. His rude attitude angered the customer even further. Within minutes, several employees were scrambling to contain the situation. Amara happened to be cleaning nearby when it occurred. As she moved a bucket across the floor, someone accidentally bumped into her. The bucket tipped over. Water spilled across part of the banking hall. Several employees immediately turned toward her. The customer service officer named Sandra groaned loudly. "Oh, wonderful," another employee shook her head. "Why are cleaners always causing problems?" Amara bent down to clean the mess. "I'm sorry," the comments continued. "She's so careless. Can't she do anything properly? Some people are completely useless." The words grew harsher. Customers began watching. Amara felt embarrassed. Not because she cared what they thought of her personally, but because the scene revealed exactly how little respect these employees had for others. Then Victor arrived. The manager surveyed the situation. His face darkened. "What happened?" Sandra pointed toward Amara. "She spilled water everywhere." Victor glared at her. His voice thundered across the hall. "Are you blind?" The entire room fell silent. Amara froze. Victor continued. "Do you know how much damage this could cause?" "I'm sorry, sir." "Sorry?" He laughed sarcastically. "Sorry doesn't solve problems." Several employees smirked. Others looked uncomfortable. The humiliation was deliberate. Victor wanted everyone to see it. Amara lowered her head, partly to maintain her disguise, partly to hide her anger. Then a voice spoke up. "Sir, it wasn't her fault." The room became even quieter. Everyone turned. Chinedu stood near the customer service desk. Victor frowned. "What did you say?" Chinedu swallowed hard, clearly nervous, but he didn't back down. "I said it wasn't her fault." Victor stared at him. The tension became unbearable. Few employees ever challenged Victor publicly, especially not interns. "What exactly are you implying?" Victor asked. Chinedu took a deep breath. Someone bumped into her. The manager's eyes narrowed. And? She didn't do anything wrong. Several employees exchanged shocked looks. Nobody could believe what they were hearing. Victor looked furious. For a moment, Amara feared he might fire Chinedu on the spot. Instead, Victor laughed coldly. You seem very concerned about cleaners. Chinedu remained silent. Victor stepped closer. Perhaps you should focus on your internship. The threat was obvious. Everyone understood it. Yet, Chinedu refused to apologize, refused to back down. Eventually, Victor turned away. Clean this mess immediately. Then he walked off. The banking hall remained silent for several seconds. Only after Victor disappeared did people begin moving again. Amara quickly finished cleaning. Her emotions were all over the place. Nobody had ever defended her like that. Not while she was pretending to be Ada, not in front of everyone, certainly not at personal. After work ended, she found Chinedu outside the building. The evening sky glowed orange as the sun slowly disappeared. He sat alone on a bench, lost in thought. Amara approached carefully. Mind if I sit? He smiled. Not at all. She sat beside him. For a few moments, neither spoke. Then Amara finally broke the silence. Thank you. For what? You know what? Chinedu looked away. It wasn't a big deal. It was to me. He smiled slightly. I just don't like seeing people treated unfairly. Amara studied him. Most people claimed to value fairness. Few actually acted on it, especially when there was something to lose. You could get into trouble. Maybe. Was it worth it? Chinedu looked directly at her. Yes, the answer came without hesitation. Amara's heart skipped a beat. Quickly, she looked away. Dangerous. Very dangerous. She was becoming attached. As they continued talking, Amara learned more about him. His father had died several years earlier. His mother worked as a school teacher. He had earned a scholarship through hard work. Every achievement in his life came through determination. Nothing had been handed to him. The more she learned, the more impressed she became. Meanwhile, Chinedu asked about her life. Amara had to be careful. She couldn't reveal the truth. So, she mixed reality with fiction. She spoke about growing up in Enugu, about wanting a better future, about believing that hard work mattered. Most of it was true, only the details changed. As darkness settled over the city, neither seemed eager to leave. Finally, Chinedu stood. It's getting late. Yeah. They began walking toward the bus stop together. The conversation flowed effortlessly. They laughed, shared stories, teased each other. For a little while, Amara almost forgot about the investigation, almost forgot about Victor, almost forgot about stolen money. She simply enjoyed being with him. When they reached the bus stop, an awkward silence followed. Neither wanted the moment to end. Eventually, Chinedu smiled. I'll see you tomorrow. Amara nodded. Tomorrow. As she watched him leave, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Hope. The feeling remained with her throughout the evening. Even during her meeting with her father, Chief Emeka immediately noticed. You seem happier. Amara nearly choked on her drink. What? The billionaire laughed. I asked a simple question. It's nothing. His smile widened. It's a man, isn't it? Amara groaned. Daddy. It is. No, Amara. She covered her face. Chief Emeka laughed loudly. For the first time in months, the serious businessman looked completely relaxed. You like someone. I have an investigation. That's not a denial. Amara threw a cushion at him. The billionaire dodged it easily. Despite herself, she laughed. But later that night, alone in her room, the conversation returned to her thoughts. Did she like Chinedu? The answer was obvious. The real question was what she intended to do about it. Nothing. That was the sensible choice. Once the investigation ended, everything would change. She would no longer be Ada. She would become Amara Okafor again, the billionaire's daughter. Would Chinedu still see her the same way? Would he feel betrayed? Would he understand? The uncertainty frightened her. Yet, despite those fears, she couldn't stop thinking about him, or the way he smiled, or the courage he showed when standing up to Victor. For the first time since returning from America, Amara felt genuinely connected to someone. Unfortunately, danger was growing closer. Victor had noticed Chinedu's defiance. He had noticed the friendship, and Victor Ize was not the type of man who liked being challenged. As Amara drifted to sleep that night, she had no idea that the coming weeks would test both her investigation and her feelings. The corruption she was uncovering was about to become far more dangerous, and the man she was slowly falling in love with would soon find himself caught directly in the path of a powerful criminal desperate to protect his secrets. The battle for the truth had entered a new stage, and neither Amara nor Chinedu would emerge unchanged. The investigation was moving faster than Amara expected. Every day brought new discoveries. Every week revealed another layer of corruption inside Prestige Trust Bank. Victor Ize and Daniel Uma were no longer just suspects. They were the center of a growing web of fraud, favoritism, and abuse of power. The evidence was piling up. Secret recordings, financial documents, photographs, witness observations. Soon there would be enough proof to destroy both men. Unfortunately, Victor was becoming increasingly dangerous. The closer criminals get to exposure, the more desperate they become, and desperation often leads to mistakes. Amara would soon witness one of Victor's biggest mistakes. It began on a Tuesday morning. The bank was unusually busy. Customers filled the banking hall. Employees hurried between departments. Phones rang non-stop. As usual, Amara moved quietly through the building carrying her cleaning supplies. Around noon, she noticed something strange. Victor's eyes followed her. At first, she ignored it, but as the day continued, she realized it wasn't her imagination. Several times she caught him staring, not at her work, but her. A feeling of unease settled inside her stomach. The attention wasn't professional. It wasn't innocent. It reminded her of the way Victor looked at certain female employees, the same women who frequently visited his office, the same women rumored to be involved with him. That realization immediately put her on guard. Later that afternoon, she was cleaning near the executive corridor when Sandra approached. Sandra looked unusually nervous. "Victor wants to see you." Amara looked up. "Me?" "Yes." "Why?" Sandra shrugged. He didn't say. The answer did little to calm her concerns. Still, refusing would raise suspicion, so she nodded. "Okay." Sandra pointed toward the manager's office. "He's waiting." As Amara walked down the corridor, every instinct told her to be careful, very careful. Before reaching the office, she discreetly activated the tiny recording device hidden inside her apron. The device had already captured several useful conversations during her investigation. Today, it might capture something even more important. Taking a deep breath, she knocked on the door. "Come in." Victor's voice sounded unusually cheerful. Amara entered. The manager sat behind his large desk. The office was luxurious, expensive furniture, decorative artwork, floor-to-ceiling windows. Everything reflected power and status. Victor smiled as she entered. The smile immediately made her uncomfortable. "Sit down." Amara hesitated. "I'll stand, sir." I said sit. His tone remained friendly, but there was something beneath it, something controlling. Reluctantly, she sat. Victor leaned back in his chair. For several moments, he simply stared at her. The silence felt deliberate, uncomfortable. Finally, he spoke. "How long have you been working here?" "Almost 3 months, sir." He nodded slowly. "And do you enjoy your job?" The question seemed harmless, yet something about it felt wrong. "It's okay, sir. Just okay?" Amara forced a small smile. "Yes," Victor chuckled. "You seem different from most cleaners." Amara remained silent. The compliment wasn't flattering. It felt calculated. Victor continued. "You're intelligent." "Thank you, sir. Too intelligent to be cleaning floors." The conversation was becoming increasingly strange. Why was he saying these things? What exactly did he want? Victor stood and walked around the desk. Amara immediately became more alert. The distance between them shortened. Far too much. "You know," he said softly, "I help people." She looked up. "Sir? Employees who show loyalty?" Now she understood. This wasn't a casual conversation. This was a test, or perhaps a trap. Victor smiled again. "I've helped many people advance in this bank." Amara thought of Sandra, Jennifer, Mary, all the women rumored to have received special treatment. "I see. I can help you, too." Amara kept her expression neutral. "Help me how?" Victor laughed softly. "Don't pretend you don't understand." There it was, the real conversation, the one hiding beneath the polite words. Amara felt anger rising inside her, but she forced herself to remain calm. She needed evidence. Nothing more, nothing less. Victor moved closer. "You're attractive." The words made her skin crawl. "I don't know what to say, sir." "You don't have to say anything." The manager sat on the edge of his desk. "Far too close. I could arrange a better position for you." Amara lowered her eyes. "What kind of position?" Victor smiled. "A comfortable one." His meaning was obvious. No honest manager would be speaking this way. No professional conversation sounded like this. The abuse of power was clear, and fortunately, every word was being recorded. "You deserve more than cleaning floors." Amara remained silent. Victor interpreted the silence as encouragement. A mistake. A very expensive mistake. "I can increase your salary." He paused. "I can even get you your own office." Amara slowly looked up. "Why would you do that for me?" Victor smiled. "Because I like taking care of people who take care of me." The room fell silent. There was no longer any ambiguity, no misunderstanding. The implication was unmistakable. Amara's anger deepened. How many women had he manipulated this way? How many careers had he controlled? How many employees felt trapped because of his position? She already suspected the answer. Too many. Victor leaned forward. "What do you say?" Amara carefully chose her next words. The goal wasn't confrontation. The goal was evidence. "I'm not sure." Victor smiled confidently. "Think about it." Then his expression hardened slightly. "But opportunities don't last forever." The threat was subtle, yet unmistakable. Amara immediately noticed it. This wasn't merely an offer, it was pressure. The kind powerful people used when they believed others had no choice. "I understand." Victor nodded. "Good." For a few moments, neither spoke. Then he surprised her again. "One more thing." "Yes, sir." His eyes narrowed. That, in turn, Amara froze internally. Chinedu. Victor noticed her friendship with Chinedu. The realization alarmed her. "What about him?" Victor laughed. "You spend a lot of time together. We just talk sometimes. Be careful." The warning carried an edge. "Sir, he has no future here." Amara's heart tightened. Victor continued. "People who challenge authority rarely succeed." The meaning was crystal clear. Victor hadn't forgotten the incident in the banking hall. He hadn't forgiven it either. For the first time during the conversation, genuine concern appeared inside Amara. Not for herself, for Chinedu. Victor noticed. A smile touched his lips. He had seen her reaction, and he enjoyed it. That alone told her everything she needed to know about his character. "That's all," he said finally. "You can go." Amara stood immediately. "Thank you, sir." She walked toward the door. Then Victor spoke again. "Think about my offer." Without turning around, she replied, "I will." Outside the office, she finally breathed properly. Her hands trembled slightly. Not from fear, from anger. The conversation had confirmed many of her suspicions. Victor wasn't simply corrupt. He was predatory. He used his position to manipulate employees. He rewarded those who cooperated. He intimidated those who resisted. And he viewed people as tools, nothing more. The recording device had captured everything, every word, every implication, every threat. That evening, she met her father again. Chief Emeka listened carefully as the recording played. His expression grew darker by the second. When it ended, he stood abruptly. "He said that to you?" "Yes." The billionaire paced across the room. Rage radiated from him. If Victor had known the woman he was targeting was the owner's daughter, he would never have dared. But that wasn't the point. The real issue was that Victor believed she was powerless, cleaner, someone he could manipulate without consequences. That made his behavior even worse. Chief Emeka stopped pacing. "How many women has he done this to?" Amara sighed. "Probably more than we know." The thought disturbed both of them. For several moments, silence filled the study. Then Amara spoke. "This recording helps us." Her father nodded. "Very much. It wasn't evidence of financial theft, but it established a pattern, abuse of authority, manipulation, threats, the kind of behavior that often accompanied larger crimes. And there was something else. Victor had revealed his growing concern about Chinedu. That worried Amara. The next day, she paid closer attention. Sure enough, Victor treated the intern differently, more coldly, more critically. Several times, she noticed him watching Chinedu, evaluating him, looking for weaknesses. The situation made her uneasy. One afternoon, she found Chinedu alone organizing files. "You okay?" she asked. He smiled. "Sure, you seem distracted." Chinedu shrugged. "Victor's been giving me a hard time lately." Amara's stomach tightened. "What happened?" "Nothing major." He forced a laugh. "I guess he doesn't like me." If only he knew how accurate that statement was. "You should be careful," Amara said softly. Chinedu looked surprised. "Why?" She couldn't tell him the truth. Not yet, so she simply smiled. No reason. For a moment he studied her face, as if sensing she wasn't telling him everything. Then he nodded. The conversation moved on. But the concern remained. As the days passed, Victor became increasingly reckless. He had no idea that every step brought him closer to exposure. No idea that the woman he viewed as an easy target was quietly building the case that would destroy him. No idea that his own words were becoming evidence. The trap he believed he was setting for others was slowly becoming a trap for himself. And very soon everything would begin to unravel, because Amara was no longer just investigating rumors. She was uncovering a criminal empire hidden inside her father's bank. And Victor Ize had just handed her one more weapon to use against him, a weapon he never saw coming. The investigation was nearing its final stage. Amara could feel it. Months of living undercover as Ada Ize had produced more evidence than she ever imagined possible. She had recordings, financial documents, photographs, witness accounts, evidence of corruption, evidence of abuse of power, evidence of fraud. The walls were slowly closing around Victor Ize and Daniel Uma. Soon they would have nowhere left to run. Yet despite everything she had uncovered, something else occupied her thoughts more and more each day. Chinedu, the young intern, had become the brightest part of her life, and that frightened her because, unlike the investigation, she couldn't control her feelings. Every conversation pulled her closer to him. Every smile made her heart race. Every moment together made it harder to remember that their relationship had begun with a lie. Not a malicious lie, but a lie nonetheless. He knew her as Ada, not Amara Okafor, not the billionaire's daughter, not the woman secretly investigating the bank. The truth hung between them like an invisible wall, a wall that would eventually come crashing down. The question was whether their relationship would survive it. One Friday afternoon, heavy clouds gathered above Enugu. The sky darkened unusually early. By 4, thunder rumbled in the distance. Employees glanced nervously through the windows. Rainy season storms could arrive quickly. And when they arrived with force. Inside the bank, however, another storm was brewing. Victor seemed unusually agitated. He spent most of the day behind closed doors making phone calls. Several times Amara noticed him arguing with someone. His frustration was obvious. Daniel had also visited earlier that morning. The two men had held another secret meeting. Whatever they were planning, time appeared to be running out. That alone made Amara nervous. Desperate criminals often made reckless decisions. She needed to finish gathering evidence before they realized they were being watched. At 5, the first drops of rain began falling. Within minutes, the sky opened. Sheets of rain crashed against the windows. Lightning flashed overhead. Thunder shook the building. Employees hurried to leave before the roads became flooded. By 6, most of the staff had gone home. Amara remained behind helping Mama Grace finish cleaning. The older woman shook her head while staring outside. "This rain is serious." Amara laughed softly. "Very serious. You should wait before going home." "I probably will." Mama Grace eventually finished her duties and left with the remaining cleaning staff. Soon the building became almost empty. Only a handful of employees remained. Among them was Chinedu. Amara spotted him near the entrance, staring at the rain. "Still here?" she asked. He turned and smiled. "I could ask you the same thing." She laughed. "Fair enough." The rain continued pouring. Neither seemed eager to step outside. The roads beyond the bank had practically disappeared beneath the downpour. "I don't think we're leaving anytime soon," Chinedu said. "Probably not." For a few moments they simply watched the storm. The atmosphere felt peaceful, almost intimate. The busy noise of the bank was gone. No customers, no managers, no rude employees, just the sound of falling rain. Eventually, Chinedu pointed toward a covered seating area near the side of the building. Want to sit? Amara hesitated, then nodded. Sure. They walked together through the quiet corridor and settled beneath the sheltered area. The rain continued falling heavily around them. The cool breeze carried the scent of wet earth. For a while neither spoke. Neither seemed uncomfortable with the silence. Then Chinedu broke it. You know, I've been wondering something. Amara looked at him. What? Who are you really? The question caught her off guard. For a brief second, panic flashed through her mind. Had he discovered something? Fortunately, he smiled. I mean beyond work. Relief washed over her. Oh, you don't talk much about yourself. Amara looked away. If only he knew why. The truth was complicated. Far too complicated. I guess I'm boring. He laughed. I don't believe that, she smiled. And why not? Because I've spent months talking to you. His voice softened. You're not boring. The words warmed her heart. More than they should have. The conversation gradually deepened. For the first time, they moved beyond casual topics. They spoke about dreams, fears, regrets, the future. Chinedu told her about his father, how difficult life became after his death, how hard his mother worked to support the family, how determined he was to succeed. Amara listened carefully. The more he shared, the more she admired him. Nothing in his life had come easily. Every achievement represented sacrifice. Every opportunity represented hard work. Yet, despite his struggles, bitterness never appeared. He remained kind, optimistic, compassionate. It was one of the things she loved most about him. The realization struck her suddenly. Loved. Not liked. Not admired. Loved. The truth hit her with surprising force. Somewhere during these months, she had fallen completely in love with him. The discovery terrified her, because she still hadn't told him who she really was. As if sensing her thoughts, Chinedu looked at her. You seem sad. She forced a smile. Just thinking. About what? The honest answer sat on the tip of her tongue. About us. About the lie. About what happens when you learn the truth. Instead, she said. Life. He nodded. Life can be complicated. You have no idea. For a moment she considered telling him everything. Right there. Right then. The rain. The investigation. Her real identity. All of it. But she couldn't. Not yet. The mission wasn't finished. The evidence wasn't complete. One mistake could ruin everything. So, she remained silent. The secret stayed hidden. The rain continued falling. Hours seemed to pass unnoticed. Their conversation flowed effortlessly. Stories, laughter, memories, dreams. At some point, darkness fully settled across the city. Streetlights flickered outside. The storm finally began weakening. Only a gentle rain remained. Neither wanted the evening to end, and both knew it. Eventually, Chinedu looked toward her. There was something different in his expression. Something vulnerable. Something honest. Can I tell you something? Amara's heart immediately quickened. Okay. He hesitated, clearly nervous. Then, he smiled awkwardly. I've never met anyone like you. The words surprised her. What do you mean? You see people differently. He looked down briefly. Most people judge others by money, education, status. His eyes met hers again. You don't. Amara swallowed. If only he knew how ironic that statement was. You barely know me. I know enough. The sincerity in his voice left her speechless. For several seconds neither moved, neither looked away. The distance between them suddenly felt very small. Very, very small. Amara's pulse raced. The world around them seemed to disappear. The rain, the bank, the investigation, everything faded. Only Chinedu remained. He slowly reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. His fingers wrapped gently around hers. The simple touch sent electricity through her entire body. Neither spoke. Words were no longer necessary. Their eyes remained locked. And in that moment, both understood exactly what was happening. Months of friendship, months of trust, months of growing feelings. Everything had led here. Slowly, Chinedu moved closer, giving her every opportunity to stop him, every opportunity to step away. She didn't. Instead, she moved closer too. Their faces were only inches apart now. Amara could hear her heartbeat, could feel the nervous excitement radiating between them. Then finally, gently, Chinedu kissed her. The kiss was soft, tender, careful. Nothing rushed, nothing forced. Felt honest, real. For one beautiful moment, all the stress of the investigation vanished. All the lies, all the secrets, all the danger, gone. Only happiness remained. When they finally pulled apart, neither knew what to say. They simply stared at each other, smiling, laughing nervously, both slightly overwhelmed. "I've wanted to do that for a while," Chinedu admitted. Amara laughed softly. "Really? Really?" She shook her head. "Good." His smile widened. "Good, because I've wanted it too." The confession felt wonderful and terrifying because it made everything real. The feelings were no longer hidden, no longer denied. They belonged to each other now. Yet beneath her happiness, guilt remained, painful reminder. She still hadn't told him the truth. The thought returned as they prepared to leave. Soon the investigation would end. Soon Victor and Daniel would be exposed. Soon Chinedu would learn who she really was. Would he understand? Would he forgive her? Or would he feel betrayed? The uncertainty lingered. But for tonight she pushed it aside. Tonight belonged to them. As they walked toward the bus stop together, their hands occasionally brushed. Both smiled like teenagers experiencing first love. For the first time in months, Amara felt genuinely happy. Not because of the investigation, not because of the evidence, because of him. Unfortunately, neither of them realized how close danger had become. Inside hidden offices and secret accounts, Victor and Daniel were preparing their final move, the largest theft yet, a transfer that would allow them to disappear forever. And as the criminals rushed toward their escape plan, Amara rushed toward the final confrontation. The truth was coming, the arrests were coming, the revelations were coming. And when that day arrived, the biggest shock would not be the exposure of the thieves. It would be the discovery that the quiet cleaner everyone ignored was actually Amara Okafor, the billionaire's daughter who had secretly brought down an entire criminal operation. And nowhere would that shock hit harder than in the heart of the man she had just kissed. Amara barely slept that night. After her kiss with Chinedu, her heart felt lighter than it had in months. For a few precious hours, she had forgotten about stolen money, corrupt executives, secret recordings, and fake identities. She had simply been a woman falling in love. But reality returned the next morning. The investigation was almost over. And the closer she got to the truth, the dangerous everything became. As she stood before the mirror in her bedroom preparing her disguise, she stared at her reflection. The oversized clothes, the worn slippers, the simple headscarf, the fake glasses. For months she had lived as Ada Isa. Soon Ada would disappear forever. The thought filled her with mixed emotions. Part of her was relieved. She was tired of pretending, tired of hiding, tired of watching corruption every day. Yet another part of her was afraid, because when the truth came out, Chinedu would discover she had lied to him from the beginning. Even if her reasons were good, the deception remained, and she had no idea how he would react. A knock interrupted her thoughts. "Come in." Chief Emeka entered. The billionaire looked exhausted. The investigation had weighed heavily on him. Every new discovery revealed another betrayal. Employees he trusted, executives he promoted, people he considered loyal. Many had turned out to be anything but. "Good morning," Amara said. "Morning." He sat on the edge of a chair. "You look worried." She forced a smile. "Do I?" "You're my daughter." Amara sighed. "There are a lot of things happening." Chief Emeka nodded knowingly. "Chinedu." She stared at him. The billionaire smiled. "I knew it, Daddy. I knew it." Despite herself, she laughed. The brief moment of happiness quickly faded as both remembered the real reason they were meeting. Chief Emeka's expression became serious. "Our investigators found something." Amara immediately sat upright. "What?" "The shell companies." Her pulse quickened. "What about them?" "They're connected." "Connected how?" Chief Emeka handed her a file. Amara opened it and began reading. The information shocked her. Several of the fake companies receiving stolen funds were linked through a complex network of ownership records, and at the center of that network was one name, Daniel Uma. Amara looked up. "He owns them?" "Indirectly." Her father nodded. "We finally traced the connections. The evidence was becoming overwhelming. What had once been suspicion was now hard proof. Daniel wasn't simply helping Victor. He was actively participating in the theft. Together, they had created an entire system designed to drain money from the bank. The amount stolen was staggering, hundreds of millions of naira, possibly more. Amara closed the file slowly. We're almost there. Yes, but we need one final piece. Chief Emeka nodded. The same thought had crossed his mind. The evidence already looked strong. Yet, they wanted a case that couldn't be challenged. A case so airtight that no lawyer could tear it apart. To achieve that, they needed proof of the criminal's final plan. And according to recent information, that final plan was coming soon. Very soon. When Amara arrived at the bank later that morning, she immediately sensed something unusual. Victor looked tense. More tense than ever before. He barely spoke to anyone. His office door remained closed most of the day. Several employees whispered about his strange behavior. Meanwhile, Daniel unexpectedly arrived at the branch again. That alone raised alarms. This was his third visit in less than 2 weeks, far more frequent than normal. Something important was happening. As Amara cleaned the executive floor, she noticed Victor and Daniel disappear into the conference room together. They carried several folders and a laptop. The meeting lasted almost 2 hours. Nobody else was invited. Nobody else was allowed inside. When they finally emerged, both men looked relieved as if a difficult decision had been made. Amara carefully observed everything, every movement, every expression, every detail. Her instincts screamed that this meeting mattered a lot. The opportunity she needed arrived later that evening. Most employees had already gone home. The bank had become quiet. Amara was cleaning near the executive offices when she noticed Daniel entering Victor's office again. The timing seemed suspicious. Their official meeting had ended hours earlier. Why meet again? Curiosity immediately kicked in. Slowly, she moved closer. The office door was shut, but not completely. A small gap remained, exactly like before. Amara positioned herself nearby and activated her recording device. Then she listened. Inside, Victor sounded excited. Everything is ready. Daniel laughed. Finally, Amara's heart began pounding. This sounded important. Very important, Victor continued. The transfer goes through tomorrow night. Tomorrow night? Amara froze. Tomorrow? The final move was happening tomorrow. How much? Victor asked. Daniel answered casually. 120 million. Amara nearly stopped breathing. 120 million naira, the largest amount yet. Victor whistled. After that, we're done. Exactly. Daniel sounded pleased. The money moves through the accounts, and then we leave. The room fell silent. Amara's pulse thundered inside her ears. They were actually planning to run. Everything she suspected was true. Every bit of it. Victor laughed. Can you imagine their faces when they realize we're gone? Daniel laughed too. The auditors will spend years trying to understand what happened. The arrogance in their voices was unbelievable. They genuinely believed they would escape, that nobody would catch them, that nobody even suspected them. Then Daniel said something that made Amara's blood boil. The owner is too trusting. Victor laughed. That's why this worked. Amara clenched her fists. They were mocking her father, the man who gave them opportunities, the man who trusted them. The betrayal felt personal, deeply personal. But she forced herself to remain calm. Every word mattered. Every second mattered. The recording device continued capturing everything. Then Victor asked a question. What about the cleaner? Amara's entire body stiffened. The cleaner? Was he talking about her? Daniel sounded confused. What cleaner? The one who works here. Amara held her breath. For several terrifying seconds, she feared her cover had been blown. Victor laughed. Relax. Then why mention her? Nothing. Victor sounded amused. I just don't trust people. Daniel scoffed. She's a cleaner. Exactly. The two men laughed. Amara remained perfectly still. Eventually, the conversation shifted back to money, bank accounts, transfers, travel arrangements. By the time the meeting ended, she had everything she needed. Everything. The final transfer, the escape plan, the amount, the timeline, the confession. It was all recorded. The moment Daniel and Victor left, Amara hurried away. Her hands trembled, not from fear, from excitement. This was it, the final evidence, the piece that connected everything together. She immediately left the bank and headed home. An hour later, she sat inside her father's private study. The recording played through the speakers. Neither spoke, neither moved, both simply listened. When it ended, silence filled the room. Chief Emeka slowly leaned back in his chair. His face was pale, not from shock, from disappointment, deep disappointment. They really planned to run. Amara nodded. Yes. The billionaire stared at the ceiling. For several moments he said nothing. Then he sighed heavily. I treated those men like family. The sadness in his voice broke Amara's heart. This wasn't just financial fraud. It was betrayal, the worst kind. People he trusted had exploited that trust, and now they intended to disappear with millions. Chief Emeka finally looked at his daughter. It's over. Amara nodded. Yes. For the first time in months she felt certainty. The investigation was complete. They had enough evidence to expose everything. The affairs, the abuse of power, the fake companies, the stolen funds, the planned escape, everything. The trap could finally be sprung. The next few hours were spent coordinating with lawyers, investigators, and law enforcement. Carefully, quietly, nobody inside the bank could know. If Victor or Daniel sensed danger, they might try to destroy evidence or flee. Secrecy was essential. By midnight, the plan was ready. Police officers would arrive the following morning. A staff meeting would be called. Everyone would attend, and then the truth would be revealed. Every single truth. As the meeting ended, Chief Emeka looked at his daughter with pride. You did it. Amara smiled softly. We did it. No. He shook his head. You did. For a moment, emotion filled his eyes. The investigation had succeeded because of her courage, her intelligence, her determination. She had entered the bank alone, pretended to be invisible, endured insults, gathered evidence, risked her safety, and now the criminals had nowhere left to hide. Yet, despite the victory, one concern remained. Chinedu. As Amara prepared to leave the study, her father noticed her expression. What is it? She hesitated, then answered honestly. Tomorrow. What about tomorrow? Everyone will know. Chief Emeka immediately understood. Chinedu, the secret she had been avoiding, the truth she could no longer hide. The billionaire smiled gently. If he cares about you, he'll understand. Amara wished she shared that confidence because tomorrow would change everything. Victor and Daniel would be exposed. The bank would learn the truth. The staff would discover that Ada, the cleaner, never existed. And Chinedu would come face to face with a reality he never imagined. The woman he had defended, the woman he had befriended, the woman he had kissed, was actually Amara Okafor, the billionaire owner's daughter. As Amara lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, like her repeated itself over and over. Tomorrow the criminals would fall. Tomorrow the truth would come out. Tomorrow her life would change forever, and there would be no turning back. The morning arrived faster than Amara expected. After months of pretending to be Ada Ize, months of gathering evidence, enduring insults, and uncovering corruption, the day of reckoning had finally come. She stood before the mirror in her bedroom and stared at her reflection. For the last time, she wore the cleaner's disguise. The oversized clothes, the worn slippers, the headscarf, the large glasses, the appearance that had allowed her to move unnoticed through the bank. A strange sadness settled over her. Ada had never been real. Yet, the identity had become part of her life. As Ada, she had learned things she would never have discovered as the billionaire's daughter. As Ada, she had seen the true character of people who respected others, who abused power, who treated workers with dignity, and who didn't. Most importantly, as Ada, she had met Chinedu. The thought made her heart ache. Today, he would learn the truth. Everything, whether he accepted it or not, was beyond her control. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Come in. Chief Emeka entered. Unlike his usual confident appearance, the billionaire looked serious. Very serious. Today was not a business meeting. Today was war. The legal team had worked throughout the night. Investigators had prepared reports. Police officers had been briefed. Arrest warrants had been approved. Every detail was ready. Chief Emeka looked at his daughter. Are you ready? Amara took a deep breath. Yes. The billionaire smiled proudly. No matter what happens today, you've made me proud. Emotion briefly filled her eyes. Thank you, Daddy. A few moments later, father and daughter left the mansion together. Behind them followed a convoy of vehicles. Several contained lawyers. Others carried investigators. 2 vehicles contained police officers. Everything was now in motion. There was no turning back. Meanwhile, at Prestige Trust Bank, the day began normally. Employees arrived as usual. Customers entered and exited. Phones rang. Computers started up. Conversations filled the banking hall. Nobody had any idea their world was about to change. Victor E. arrived shortly before 8. His expensive suit was perfectly pressed. His confident smile remained intact. Inside, however, he felt relieved. The final transfer was scheduled for later that evening. By tomorrow, he and Daniel would begin disappearing with hundreds of millions of naira. The plan had worked perfectly, or so he believed. Daniel arrived shortly afterward. The 2 men exchanged subtle smiles. Everything was proceeding according to schedule. Across the banking hall, Chinedu sat at his desk reviewing files. He noticed something strange. Ada wasn't there. For months, she had always arrived early, usually before most employees. Today, there was no sign of her. He checked the entrance again. Nothing. A feeling of unease settled inside him. Perhaps she was late. Still, something felt off. Around 9, an unexpected announcement echoed through the building. Attention, everyone. All staff members are required to attend an emergency meeting in the conference hall immediately. Employees exchanged confused looks. An emergency meeting? Without notice? That was unusual. Very unusual. Victor frowned. Nobody had informed him about any meeting. As branch manager, he should have known. Daniel appeared equally confused. Within minutes, every employee began moving toward the large conference hall. Whispers spread through the crowd. What happened? Is it another audit? Maybe new management? Did something go wrong? Nobody knew. The uncertainty created tension. Soon the hall filled with employees, managers, cashiers, security personnel, interns, everyone. Chinedu looked around again. Still no sign of Ada. His concern deepened. At the front of the hall sat several unfamiliar faces. Lawyers, investigators, corporate executives. The sight immediately made Victor uncomfortable. Then the doors opened and everything changed. Chief Amara Okafor entered, the owner of Prestige Trust Bank, the billionaire himself. Instantly everyone stood. The room fell silent. Many employees had never met him in person. His presence alone created tension. Chief Amara walked confidently toward the stage. Behind him followed several police officers. Gasps filled the room. Police? Why were police officers present? Victor's stomach tightened. For the first time that morning, genuine concern appeared on his face. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Chief Amara stepped behind the podium. The silence became absolute. For several seconds, he simply looked at the crowd. His expression revealed nothing. Then he spoke. Good morning. The staff responded nervously. Good morning, sir. The billionaire nodded. I appreciate everyone attending this meeting. His voice remained calm, controlled, dangerously calm. Then his expression hardened. Today, we will discuss a very serious matter. The room grew even quieter. Victor exchanged a quick glance with Daniel. Neither liked where this was heading. Chief Amara continued. For several months, Prestige Trust Bank has been losing substantial amounts of money. Murmurs spread throughout the hall. Most employees already knew about the missing funds. What they didn't know was who was responsible. Internal investigations were conducted. The billionaire paused. Audits were performed. Another pause. External investigators were hired. Employees listened carefully. Victor's heartbeat quickened. Chief Amara's eyes swept across the room. Eventually, we discovered the truth. The atmosphere instantly changed. Every person in the hall became alert, including Victor, including Daniel, and especially Chinedu. Then Chief Amara smiled, a smile that confused everyone. Before we continue, I would like to introduce someone. The employees exchanged puzzled looks. Introduce someone? What did that have to do with missing funds? The billionaire turned toward the entrance. Please come in. The doors opened again. A woman entered. For a moment, nobody recognized her. Then confusion exploded across the room, because the woman walking toward the stage looked familiar, very familiar. Chinedu stared. His heart nearly stopped. Impossible. Couldn't be. The woman wasn't wearing a headscarf. She wasn't dressed like a cleaner. She wore an elegant designer suit. Her posture radiated confidence. Her appearance was completely different, yet her face was unmistakable. Ada. Or at least the woman he knew as Ada. Shock spread through the room. Employees looked at one another in disbelief. Victor frowned. Sanders' mouth fell open. Mama Grace stared in confusion. Nobody understood what was happening. Amara stepped beside her father. Then Chief Emeka spoke the words that changed everything. "This is my daughter." Silence. Absolute silence. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Nobody even blinked. The words seemed impossible to process. "My daughter, Amara Okafor." The room erupted. Gasps, whispers, disbelief, shock. Employees stared at Amara, as though seeing a ghost. Victor's face turned pale. Daniel looked physically ill. Sandra nearly collapsed into her chair. But no one looked more stunned than Chinedu. He sat frozen, completely frozen. His mind refused to accept what he had just heard. Ada, the cleaner, the woman he loved, the woman he kissed, the woman he defended. She was Amara Okafor, the billionaire owner's daughter. The revelation hit him like a lightning strike. Amara briefly looked toward him. Their eyes met. The pain in his expression nearly broke her heart. Then, Chief Emeka continued, "Several months ago, my daughter returned from the United States." The room remained silent. Together, we decided to investigate the missing funds. Every employee listened carefully. To do that, she entered this bank, disguised as a cleaner. More gasps. People couldn't believe it. The cleaner they insulted, the cleaner they ignored, the cleaner they treated badly, she had been watching them all along. Victor felt sweat forming on his forehead. A horrible realization dawned on him. The cleaner, the conversations, the meetings, the opportunities. His stomach dropped. No, no, no. Chief Emeka wasn't finished. "My daughter spent months gathering evidence." The billionaire picked up a file. Evidence of corruption. Another file. Evidence of abuse of power. Another. Evidence of fraud. The room became deadly quiet. Victor's hands began trembling. Daniel looked ready to faint. Then the evidence presentation began. Recordings played through the conference speakers. Victor's voice filled the room. His conversations with Daniel. His discussions about fake accounts. His plans to steal money. His arrangements to flee. Every word echoed through the hall. Employees stared in horror. Then another recording played. Victor's conversation with Amara in his office. His inappropriate comments. His abuse of authority. His attempts to manipulate her. The room erupted in outrage. Several female employees looked furious. Others looked vindicated. Years of rumors had finally become facts. Victor sat motionless. His career was over. His freedom was over. His life as he knew it was over. Then came the financial records. The shell companies. The transfers. The stolen millions. Everything. Piece by piece. Evidence by evidence. The entire criminal operation was exposed. There was nowhere left to hide. Nowhere. Chief Emeka finally looked directly at Victor and Daniel. His voice became ice cold. "You betrayed this bank." Neither man responded. "You betrayed your colleagues." Still silence. "You betrayed my trust." The disappointment in his voice hurt more than any anger. For a moment nobody spoke. Then something unexpected happened. Victor stood up. Suddenly, abruptly. The movement startled everyone. His eyes darted toward the exit, and he ran. The room exploded into chaos. Employees shouted. Chairs scraped against the floor. Victor sprinted toward the door. Desperation had completely taken over, but he never made it. The police officers were already moving. Within seconds, they intercepted him. Victor struggled, fought, shouted, but it was useless. The officers forced him to the ground. Handcuffs clicked around his wrists. The sound echoed through the room. Final, permanent, over. Nearby, Daniel didn't even try to run. He simply lowered his head as officers approached. Moments later, he too was handcuffed. The room watched in stunned silence. The powerful executives who once controlled everything now stood as criminals. Defeated, exposed, humiliated. As police officers escorted them toward the exit, Victor looked back one final time. His eyes landed on Amara, the cleaner he underestimated, the woman he tried to manipulate, the person who destroyed him. And for the first time, genuine fear appeared in his eyes. Then he disappeared through the doors. The hall remained silent. Months of secrets had finally come crashing down. And as Amara stood beside her father, one thought echoed through her mind. The investigation was over, but another challenge still awaited her. Chinedu. Because after everything that had happened, she still had to face the man she loved and explain why she had lied to him from the very beginning. The conference hall remained silent long after the police officers escorted Victor Eze and Daniel Uma out of the building. It felt as though everyone was struggling to process what had just happened. Months of corruption had been exposed in less than an hour. Powerful executives had been arrested. The missing funds mystery had finally been solved. And perhaps most shocking of all, the quiet cleaner everyone ignored was actually Amara Okafor, daughter of the bank's billionaire owner. The revelation had shaken the entire organization. Employees sat frozen in their seats. Some looked ashamed. Others looked stunned. Several appeared frightened as they replayed months of behavior in their minds. Every rude comment, every insult, every act of disrespect. They now realized that the cleaner they mistreated had been watching everything. Chief Emeka stood at the front of the room, his expression softened slightly. The purpose of this investigation was not only to identify criminals. The employees listened carefully. It was also to reveal the culture that allowed such behavior to thrive. Several heads lowered. The billionaire continued. Many people in this bank treated others with kindness and respect. His eyes moved toward Mama Grace, then toward a few other employees. But many did not. Nobody spoke. Nobody could. The truth hurt. Chief Emeka wasn't finished. Character matters. His voice echoed through the hall. Titles come and go. Money comes and goes. Positions come and go. But character remains. The words struck deeply, especially among employees who had treated Amara badly. Several looked unable to meet her gaze. Eventually, the meeting ended. Employees slowly filed out of the conference hall. Nobody knew exactly what to say. Some approached Amara and apologized. Others avoided her entirely. A few simply stared, still unable to believe the truth. Amara accepted the apologies politely, but her attention remained focused on one person, Chinedu. Unfortunately, he was nowhere to be seen. The moment the meeting ended, he had quietly left, and that worried her very much. Later that afternoon, the bank remained unusually quiet. News of the arrests had spread rapidly. Investigators moved throughout the building collecting documents. Lawyers reviewed records. Auditors examined accounts. Several employees were questioned. The atmosphere felt completely different. The old fear that Victor created was gone. For the first time in months, people seemed able to breathe freely. Chief Emeka spent most of the day meeting with executives. Plans for restructuring the branch had already begun. Corrupt employees would be removed. Policies would change. Training programs would be introduced. The bank would recover. Of that he was certain. Yet, despite all the progress, Amara couldn't stop thinking about Chinedu. Several times she looked for him. Nothing. No sign of him. Eventually, she found Mama Grace. The older woman smiled warmly. My daughter. Amara hugged her. For months, Mama Grace had treated her kindly without knowing her true identity. That alone meant a great deal. You should have told me, Mama Grace said playfully. Amara laughed. Then the investigation wouldn't have worked. The older woman nodded. That's true. Then her expression softened. You're looking for someone. Amara sighed. Is it that obvious? Mama Grace smiled knowingly. Chinedu? Amara nodded. The older woman pointed toward the parking lot. I saw him leave about an hour ago. Disappointment immediately filled Amara. She had hoped to explain everything today, to tell him the truth herself, to make him understand. Now she wasn't sure what would happen. That evening, Amara sat alone in the mansion garden. The events of the day replayed endlessly in her mind. The arrests, the revelations, the shocked faces, everything. Yet one image remained strongest. Chinedu's expression when he learned the truth. The confusion, the disbelief, the hurt. She understood why. From his perspective, she had lied from the beginning, even if her reasons were justified, even if the investigation required secrecy. The pain was real. A familiar voice interrupted her thoughts. Thinking about him again? Chief Emeka sat beside her. Amara smiled weakly. Maybe. The billionaire nodded. I spoke with him. Her eyes widened. What? He came to my office. Amara immediately sat upright. When? After the meeting. What did he say? Chief Emeka smiled. Mostly questions that sounded exactly like Chinedu. The billionaire continued. He was shocked. No surprise there, but he wasn't angry. Hope flickered inside her chest. He wasn't? Chief Emeka shook his head. No. Relief washed over her. Then her father handed her a small piece of paper, a restaurant address. He asked me to give you this. Amara stared at it. What is this? A chance. The billionaire stood. Don't waste it. The following evening, Amara arrived at the restaurant. Nervousness twisted inside her stomach. The place was quiet and elegant. Soft music played in the background. A few customers occupied distant tables. Near the window sat Chinedu, waiting. The moment he saw her, he stood. For several seconds, neither moved, neither spoke. Then Amara slowly approached. Hi. Hi. The awkwardness felt almost unbearable. Eventually they sat down. Silence followed. Not angry silence, uncertain silence. Finally, Amara spoke. I'm sorry. Chinedu looked at her. For what? For lying. The words came out quietly. I never wanted to hurt you. He sighed. I know. Amara blinked. You do? He nodded slowly. It took me a while to understand. The tension inside her chest eased slightly. Everything was real. His eyes met hers. I know that too. Emotion filled her throat. Months of fear began melting away. She explained everything. How her father approached her, why she went undercover, how the investigation worked, the evidence, the recordings, the risks, everything. Chinedu listened carefully. When she finished, he remained silent for a moment. Then he laughed softly. What? I keep replaying everything. Amara looked confused. The bucket incident. She smiled. Oh, the first day we met. Another smile. The lunch breaks. Amara laughed. And? Chinedu shook his head. I was dating a billionaire's daughter without knowing it. They both laughed. For the first time since the revelation, the tension disappeared completely. Then Chinedu became serious. You know what mattered most? What? You never acted like you were better than anyone. Emotion returned to her eyes. Because that meant more than he realized. Months disguised as a cleaner had revealed people's true character, and Chinedu had passed every test. Every single one. You were the only person who treated me the same from beginning to end. His smile softened. Because you deserved it. At that moment, Amara knew she had chosen the right person to love. Not because he was ambitious, not because he was handsome, not because he impressed her father, but because kindness was part of who he was, even when nobody was watching. Especially when nobody was watching. The months that followed brought enormous change. The fraud investigation expanded. Several additional individuals were implicated. Most were dismissed from the bank. Others faced prosecution. Large portions of the stolen funds were recovered. Prestige Trust Bank slowly regained stability. Employee training programs were introduced. New accountability systems were implemented. The culture began changing for the better. Meanwhile, Chief Emeka personally offered Chinedu a permanent position at the bank. The young intern had earned his respect, not through connections, not through influence, but through character. Over time, Chinedu rose through the organization. His intelligence and work ethic quickly became obvious. People trusted him. Employees respected him. Managers valued him. Everything he achieved, he earned, just as he always had. And throughout it all, Amara remained by his side. Their relationship grew stronger with every passing month, without secrets, without disguises, without lies, just honesty and love. 1 year later, Enugu witnessed one of the most talked about weddings in the city. The ceremony took place at a beautiful event center, surrounded by flowers and lights. Family members filled the venue. Friends arrived from across Nigeria. Business leaders attended. Bank employees attended. Even Mama Grace sat proudly in the front row. Many guests still smiled whenever they remembered the famous cleaner story. At the front stood Chinedu, dressed in an elegant suit, nervous, excited, happy. Then the music began. Everyone turned. Amara appeared, more beautiful than ever. The moment their eyes met, neither could stop smiling. The journey that brought them here had been extraordinary. A billionaire's daughter pretending to be a cleaner, a bank corruption scandal, criminal executives, dangerous investigations, hidden identities, and somewhere in the middle of it all, love. Real love was never about titles, wealth, or power. It was the kind of love that saw beyond appearances and chose character first. When Amara reached Chinedu, he took her hands, and for a moment, neither of them needed words. Everything they had survived was there between them. The lies, the secrets, the undercover investigation, the danger, the betrayal, and the painful truth that had nearly destroyed Prestige Trust Bank. The ceremony was beautiful, vows were spoken, promises were made. And when the minister finally pronounced them husband and wife, thunderous applause filled the hall. Chief Emeka watched with pride in his eyes. His daughter had returned home not just to expose corruption, but to protect innocent workers, save the family bank, and prove that true strength did not need arrogance to be powerful. She had entered Prestige Trust Bank as a cleaner everyone mocked, but she left as the woman who brought justice to everyone who had abused their power. As the celebration continued late into the night, music filled the air, families danced, friends laughed, and beneath the sparkling lights of Enugu, Amara and Chinedu stood hand in hand, looking back on the journey that had brought them here. Amara had gone undercover to find missing money. She had found evidence. She had found justice. But the greatest thing she discovered was love, real love, honest love, the kind no criminal, no lie, and no betrayal could ever steal. And together, Amara and Chinedu stepped into a future built not on secrets, but on truth.